Hail, Thunder Faithful! It's Mjolnir Monday, December 3rd, and it's time for your weekly Thunder. Raw acting general manager Baron Corbin opened the show with his two new cronies, Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley, and declared that even though Braun Strowman is out, he's still keeping the match scheduled so that he can win by forfeit and become permanent general manager. Elias, your new favorite rock star, interrupted and humiliated Corbin and Lashley to everyone's excitement and won by disqualification until Corbin said, "Oh, BTW, it's actually no disqualification." And all three ganged up on Elias like they did Strowman the previous week. So the question remains, with the Monkster among men and the Big Dog both out for a while and the Shield dismantled, who will stand up to the injustice of this wannabe authority? Elias? Finn Balor? Seth Rollins once he moves past Dean Ambrose? Lucha House Party? Afterwards, Baron Corbin appointed Alexa Bliss to be in charge of the women's division, even though she's just injured and still part of the active roster. No complaints here. Finally, some hope for the good guys, as Seth Rollins had his open challenge answered by Dolph Ziggler and retained his Intercontinental title in what would be an epic summer throwback if it hadn't already happened 800 times before. That put Seth one step closer to getting his head right. Finn Balor did try to take a step to get Raw right and take on Baron Corbin in a match, and had him dead to rights until Corbin changed the match to a 2-on-1 handicap, bringing out Drew McIntyre to take down and pin the extraordinary man. Lashley came out after the bell, and this new Legion of Doom put on the second public beatdown in the same evening. It looks bleak for this division run by fear. The Hounds of Justice are no more, but this is definitely and there came a day unlike any other where Raw's mightiest heroes were united against the common threat sort of deal. And they just might unite, as Friday night on WWE.com it was announced Finn Balor will be facing Drew McIntyre on TLC, and Elias will face Bobby Lashley. Raw Avengers assemble! SmackDown Live was a lot more cheerful in the lovable heel sense, as Becky Lynch returned for the first time since choosing Charlotte Flair to represent her at Survivor Series. And in a tense but fun PCB reunion, Paige scheduled them for yet another SmackDown Women's Championship match at TLC and basically said no one had more drive than them, of which the rest of the women's roster marched out indignantly, so Paige put them in a battle royal to determine who would face Charlotte and Becky in a triple threat for the championship, and it was Asuka! The Empress of Tomorrow will face the Man and the Queen at TLC. The NXT UK Women's Championship took place between Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm, with Ripley emerging victorious and getting a nice big Triple H hug. A tag team match for the ages happened as the Heart of 205 Live Mustafa Ali along with Cedric Alexander took on Cruiserweight champ Buddy Murphy and his pal Tony Nese, and Ali and Alexander actually won because this isn't Raw. And if Raw starts off by bumming us out once again tonight, turn it on over to Monday Night Football halftime, because they'll be debuting the new Captain Marvel trailer. But if the NFL wants some positive buzz, they could also debut the Avengers 4 title. Just saying. And speaking of football, to no one's surprise at all, Clemson defeated Pittsburgh for the ACC Championship, and Alabama beat Georgia for the SEC Championship by, get this, switching quarterbacks in game. Granted, Tua Tagovailoa actually got hurt, and that's why, but still, why? The final rankings that will determine playoff seeding was released Sunday afternoon. Alabama is number 1, of course. Clemson is number 2, of course. Notre Dame, that didn't even play for a conference championship because they have none, is number 3. Oklahoma is number 4. Georgia is 5. And Ohio State is 6. Clemson will face Notre Dame at 4 p.m. on December 29th, and Oklahoma will face Alabama that day at 8 p.m., with the winners facing for the College Football National Championship January 7th. Ohio State will face Pac-12 champ Washington in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day at 5 p.m., and Georgia will face Big 12 runner-up Texas in the Sugar Bowl that same day at 8:45. To leave the sports segment on a sour note, Kansas City releases their star running back Kareem Hunt after a video was released of a February incident where he pushed and kicked a woman. Packers head coach Mike McCarthy was fired Sunday after losing to the freaking Cardinals and dropping to 4-7-1. And because the NBA won't be outdone by the NFL in any stretch, the Chicago Bulls fired Fred Hoiberg after a 5-19 start, and it's not even Christmas yet when the NBA truly starts. Have you listened to Thunder Talk Resurrection yet? A jam-packed return episode with more segments than SNL has skits, and Sexy Thor is always the celebrity with the great opening monologue. Listen, damn it! First critic reactions to Aquaman has come out over social media, and they were positive. They mostly give credit to James Wan's vision, but with this being a visual spectacle, and Momoa really stepping into his role, that was also mentioned. The most negative comments it really got was to not set your expectations too high, but even they said it was a fun movie. It was also declared this is the next best DC movie after Wonder Woman. I said on Thunder Talk how Aquaman could make it the final death rattle of the DCEU, or give it new life / put it in another gear, and so far the needle could be pointing to the latter. And speaking of Aquaman, are you going to be riding a super comic book movie high after you enjoy Once Upon a Deadpool, Into the Spider-Verse, and Aquaman? Hell yeah, you are! Do you have at least 2.5 hours between family shit and Laker basketball on Christmas Day? Hell yeah, you do! Then after you stop lying to yourself that you don't care about Laker basketball, hop on Netflix, because Avengers Infinity War, the movie that rocked the month of April so hard it was like 10 more Fast and Furious movies came out. Then the day after Christmas, see if you can watch all 4 of those movies in one day. Or just binge on MCU. That's never a bad plan. Whatever you need to forget that Daredevil's been canceled. And in news I should have reported the day it came out, 2 weeks ago Margot Robbie posted a picture of the cover of the Birds of Prey script on Instagram, and it had a written-in edition that I really hope is the real title. Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. It's still set to release on February 7th, 2020. In a recent Q&A, the brothers who know better than anyone how to make Marvel magic, Joe and Anthony Russo, confirmed some tidbits fans have been wondering. Loki is dead for reals. Chris Evans is not done playing Captain America. Pausing for dramatic effect and to let that sink in. Cole Obsidian, that big ugly child of Thanos, whose name is actually Black Dwarf, has a sash that fans have been wondering about, as it looks strikingly similar to Captain Marvel's costume, but the Russos have said that it's coincidental and he won it in an unrelated epic battle. Another Infinity War tie-in novel has been released called Avengers, Infinity War, The Cosmic Quest, Volume 2, Aftermath. And it's about Sexy Thor's old pals, Eric Selvig and Darcy Lewis, putting their collective brains together to find the cause for half of all life disappearing into dust, as no one but those present at the Battle of Wakanda knows about Thanos and the Gauntlet. Also involved in figuring this out is Jane Foster. She survived after all. It was a mutual survival of the snappening. Marvel has announced yet another foray into the podcast game, because they must have every medium of entertainment, with Wolverine: The Lost Trail coming to Stitcher Radio winter 2019 and everywhere else after that, as a sequel to this year's Wolverine: The Long Night, which was a fantastic story that I recommend to all the Thunder faithful. It stars Richard Armitage as Wolverine. You might remember him as Thorin from the Hobbit trilogy, and the guy who assassinated Dr. Erskine in Captain America: The First Avenger. The Lost Trail takes Logan to the Bayou, which means of course he'll run into the Rageanist, Cajunist X-Man, Gambit. Also appearing will be Mastermind, who hasn't really been seen outside of the comics, but is a member of the original 1960s Brotherhood of Evil Mutants with Sabretooth and the Maximovs. He'll be voiced by Bill Irwin, who's also in Marvel's show on FX, Legion. And that's your Weekly Thunder for Mjolnir Monday, December 3rd. I'm Sexy Thor, and remember to drink, fight, and make your ancestors proud twice as hard this week, as last Saturday was our very own Lightning Lad's birthday, and we did just that. Also celebrate by telling him happy birthday and tell people about his podcast. Cheers!